Last night we sold another computer, so we have to pack that up. Yes sir, it is getting busy around here. I'm just a random guy who's selling gaming computers and documenting the process on YouTube. This is flipping PCs until I buy a house. In the last episode, we only sold 2 computers, but hey, we are still making progress, so that's all that matters. We were able to add $200 towards our goal. And for those of you that don't know, I want to save at least $15,000. As you heard me say in the beginning, it's getting busy, so let's just get into it. We're picking up right where I left off in the last episode. This gaming computer right here got returned, and I'm doing some final testing on it, and it's ready to be listed for sale. If you take a look at this Venmo transaction right here, I just received a $50 deposit for a computer. That means we basically sold another computer. It's actually all the way over here. I built this in the last episode as well. I didn't include it in the video because it was a pretty simple, boring build. But the person that's buying this, they messaged me wanting a computer for video editing and streaming. I mentioned, hey, I don't have anything that's good for that right now, but I can always build you a custom one, or have this one for $600, and all we have to do is upgrade the RAM to 32, and it'd be pretty good. And then we're okay with that. Here's the old RAM in the system. It's just a simple 16GB kit of RAM from G.Skill Ripjaws, clocked at 3200 megahertz. I'm gonna be swapping it with basically the same kit. The only difference, this one is 32 gigabytes instead of 16. Hey, the computer is working, there we go. Now time to send a video to the buyer, and we might be meeting up tonight or tomorrow morning. Here's the video I ended up sending the buyer. I just show the specs in Task Manager, and then I show the date and time in the bottom right corner. I do this because I don't want to meet where I live, and this helps build trust and credibility, especially when selling used computers. And we decided to meet tonight. Well, we made it to the meeting spot. It's 8:15 p.m. It's a lot darker than it seems, but hopefully I don't get robbed. Well, now it is 8:37. I'm at a completely different meeting spot because somehow we got all mixed up. Hello. Sorry, we got all mixed up. I don't know what happened. This is your first computer or what?
Yeah, first PC.
Yeah?
I've been messing around on the Linky laptop.
Okay.
Yeah.
You want to take it out of the box and take a look at it?
I think I trust you.
Alrighty.
Have you
All right, well, here's a little remote for the lights. This USB adapter right here is if you want to connect to the Wi-Fi, if you're not going to use Ethernet, and then the power cord, and then also some extra screws, like if you ever want to add storage down the line or something.
But this is the money if you want to count it out.
So how much is here? Because I know you sent me 50.
Yeah, so right here it should be $570.
Okay. No win. Sale secured. We got $570 here. 50 on Venmo. I'm giving her a $20 discount because it was kind of a drive for her. Profit's pretty decent, better than selling online and losing fees, but it was pretty annoying. So why was this annoying to deal with? Well, as I said, I upgraded the RAM to 32 gigabytes, and after that, the computer just started shutting off like after 3 minutes, just a random complete shut off. That instantly told me that we had a hardware issue, so then I tried a different kit of RAM that was also 32 gigabytes, and it was having the same exact issue. So then I also tried 2 different power supplies, and same thing was happening. At this point, I was pulling my hair out because we were supposed to meet up soon. I actually went to get some help from my Discord server because I couldn't figure it out. We decided to try a different motherboard, and guess what? Same damn thing was happening. Last thing to try was a new CPU. So I did that and it fixed all of the issues. I was pretty relieved, but it's just so weird because the computer was working perfectly fine with 16 gigabytes of RAM, but right when I upgraded to 32, it started spazzing out. So that tells me there's probably an issue with the original Ryzen 5 3600 that I was using. I guess I'm lucky that I had some on hand available to just swap it out. And to make the situation a little better, I reached out to the eBay seller. I actually bought 2 CPUs from them. I let them know the first one was working just fine, but this one was giving problems, and they issued me a full refund, which pretty nice. It's been a few days since I've recorded an update for this episode, and today I was building a computer, but it's for a completely different video. I'll give you a little sneak peek. There it is right there. It's an all white build and it's looking super clean. Now, as I was building that computer, I got a notification from Jawa that we sold the computer. I went and checked it out in a little like my sales category. And then it says disputed, shipping failed. I contacted support, so now I'm just kind of waiting to hear back from them. I don't know if the buyer is canceling or the shipping failed, or like, what does that even mean, bro? I got some great news. That sale didn't fall through. It went through, And here's the computer right here. Turns out the guy or the buyer, they just accidentally typed their address all wrong. So I reached out to Jawa and they sent me a label with all the correct details. I'm pretty happy with how this build turned out, and my build cost is really awesome, under $400, and it's rocking a Ryzen 5 2600 and a 1660 Super. I listed it, so that's always good. But now I'm gonna pack it up because it just finished doing the final testing. I'm gonna use an Instapack and of course a double box to protect it in shipping. Now what if I told you I sold a computer literally the day before that one? And I got another pretty good deal from someone in my Discord server, so I have to tell you about those things. But then today on this fine Saturday morning, it is about 7:30. I'll be honest, I do not want to work, but I have no choice because last night we sold another computer, so we have to pack that up. Yes, sir, it is getting busy around here. The computer I need is under this one. This box right here. Well, here is the money maker. It is a pretty sweet looking build. It's almost all white. I built it a couple episodes back, but right now I'm just doing some final testing before I pack it up. And then I'll use the normal Instapack and of course a double box from Home Depot. The computer's in the car. This has been my only passenger for a while. I'm on my way to the post office to go drop off this computer. Maybe you can see behind me, I have a lot of packages. I actually have more to pick up this morning. But before we get ahead of ourselves, let me tell you about the profit of this computer right now. The specs are up on screen with the build sheet. The reason my build cost is under $200 is because I got the graphics card for free. Happened on eBay, the guy shipped me and sold me the completely wrong graphics card, and I ended up getting a refund and I didn't even have to return the GPU. So that was a major W for us. And then after subtracting the fees from Jawa, it was around $50. We're left with a really decent profit, especially for selling online. That's really good, but of course we got the GPU for free. But as I said earlier this morning, we sold another computer and got a good deal on Discord, so let me catch you up. Here's the computer that sold. Nothing too special, but it's always nice to sell a computer. You definitely won't find me complaining about that. It was the build with a Ryzen 5 3600, 16 gigabytes of RAM clocked at 3600 megahertz, and the GPU was a GTX 1080. I listed it for sale on October 26th, and after a price drop, it finally sold on November 18th. My total build cost was $376.84, but that is with all the extras like a USB Wi-Fi adapter, power cord, and the shipping materials that I used. And after giving Jawa their piece of the pie, we're left with a profit of $121.91. And of course, since we sold the computer, I had to double down and get more inventory. Anyways, I ended up getting this deal from another member in the Discord server. I paid $380 for all the parts and $21.69 for shipping. Let me break down what we got. We got a Ryzen 5 2600 for $26, which is a perfect pairing for the 16 gigabyte kit of RAM that's clocked at 3200 megahertz for $25.69. And we got two GTX 1660 Supers for $130 or $65 each. And last but not least, we got an RTX 3060 for $160. And then we have a new B550 motherboard for $60. I stress tested all the parts and everything but one of the graphics cards was working without issues. The Asus TUF 1660 Super that I got was overheating like almost instantly. I ran a firmware test and it hit 90C, so I just shut it off. I then took the GPU apart because it needed a cleaning, and that thermal paste was harder than me. Hey, yo, what you mean by that? After I applied some fresh thermal paste, the temps were way better. For a total of $401.69, the haul was pretty decent. I think my favorite deal was that B550 motherboard. It looks so clean. It even has a built-in IO shield that's all white. I'll definitely have to save this for like a higher end all white PC flip. Over the weekend, I unboxed a lot of packages from AliExpress. You might see the change of inventory behind me. Also over the weekend, I decided to build another gaming computer because as you see, I have a lot of parts. So if I'm not building computers, I'm honestly behind. It's not on right now, but when it is, it looks pretty sweet. And I built this with the parts that I got from the Discord server that I unboxed last episode. Rocking Ryzen 5 4500, 16 gigabytes of RAM, and a GTX 1650 Super. I normally wouldn't buy these parts, but for $95 for the CPU, GPU, and RAM, I thought it was a decent deal. Honestly, my total cost for this thing is a little high. I paid too much for the case. The fans cost a little too much. I should have saved them for like a higher end build, but it all worked out in the end. Today's Monday, the 25th. I actually listed this yesterday and it already sold. Yeah, I probably could have listed it for a little more, but the profit definitely isn't the greatest either. but I felt like I couldn't really list it higher. And then with Jawa, we suffer from the fees, especially on these low end builds, man. It's like a shot in the foot. You work so hard and then I don't know. I just finished backing the computer up. I have it on its side so you don't see the label, but I want to show you this upgrade I made to my shipping. As you can see, I got corner protectors on my boxes now. I actually saw this from Zach's Tector. He made like a YouTube short showing that he uses these, and they just tape them on each corners. It took a little bit of time and honestly a little bit more tape than I used to use, but now the box is going to be way more protected in shipping. This will just help with like the impact, because you know how they handle the boxes, they just be throwing them everywhere. Computer has been dropped off and more packages have been picked up, 4 new cases and 2 little packages today. Time to get to work. It was too loud for normal recording when I got back. Hey, voiceover Elijah is here to save the day. Maybe not the day, but save something. Today I wanted to build 2 gaming computers, but they will essentially be the exact same. Let's get started with build number 1. I started this build at 9:42 a.m. For the motherboard, I'm using this ASRock A320M HDV. It's a basic board, but for the price of $43.63 from AliExpress, I really can't complain. It's a solid option. And for the CPU that I'm installing, I'm using one of 10 Ryzen 5 2600s that I also bought from AliExpress. I don't even know how, but I got these for $21.39 each. That's a pretty good price for a 6-core 12-threaded processor that can handle a good amount of graphics cards. To finish off the motherboard, I installed this 2x8GB kit of DDR4, which was also bought from AliExpress. The brand is like Kilisari or something, and I paid $22.76. I think it looks pretty good for the price. Now to fill up the 1 NVMe slot on our motherboard, I'm using a 512GB. It's some type of OEM model from Samsung, but it's Gen 3, and I bought 10 of them on eBay for $26.08 each. To cool that $20 Ryzen 5, I'm using this tower cooling from ID Cooling. If I didn't buy it on sale, it would have been more than the processor. This thing will do great at cooling the Ryzen 5, and it will look pretty good in the build as well since it has RGB. Now with everything put together on the motherboard, I'm starting to see the vision for this build. It should turn out looking pretty clean. Moving on to the case now, I'm using one of the 2 you saw me holding up. It's from Gomdius, and I paid $54 on Amazon. This is a decent case for the money. It comes with 3 RGB fans, which are controlled with a button, but keep in mind, they are proprietary connections and the tempered glass side panel is tinted, but for budget builds, it's a decent option. I finished off this build with installing the GPU, which is a white GTX 1660 that I spray painted in the last episode. This is one of 3 and I paid $54.36 for each. I ended up completing this build at 10:21 a.m. and we got a post first try. I didn't waste any time. I started installing Windows 10 Pro on the computer, and as that was going, I started the other build right at 10:35 a.m. Now the parts for this one, as I said, they will essentially be the exact same. Well, I wasn't joking. Every part is the exact same between both of the builds. I was pretty excited to build 2 identical computers, and I have a feeling they will sell pretty well once they get listed, since, you know, they're all white, and it'll be right around the $500 price range. I ended up finishing the other build right at 11:09 a.m. and unlike the first one, this one didn't post right away, but I just accidentally didn't plug in the DisplayPort cable all the way, so that'll do it. Building these 2 computers was pretty fun, but cable management, not so much, buddy. Not so much. And I know I told you most of the parts that went into these computers, but for the things I didn't mention, both of the PCs have a Corsair 500 watt power supply, and of course I threw in some white cable extensions. And then the last part I had to add to both of the builds was this SATA RGB controller for the CPU cooler. After finishing the cable management, I got straight to testing, and I should have saved the cable management in case anything was going wrong, but luckily both of these builds were working with no issues. For testing, I ran a Firmark, OCCT, and Prime 95 for about 10 minutes, and I also tested a few games on both of the systems. I tested Call of Duty Black Ops 6 and just ran the in-game benchmarking tool at 1080p with the balance preset, and with that we averaged 67 FPS. Then I tested Cyberpunk at 1080p with the high settings preset, and we averaged 62 FPS. And for an easier to run game, I tested Apex Legends at 1080p with all high settings, and we averaged 109 FPS. Now if you're curious how much I spent on these computers, then the build sheet is up on screen right now. As I said, the parts were exactly the same, so the prices were exactly the same between both of the computers. And since we built 2 computers, it's time for 2 random questions from the comments. Our first hashtag PFQ is from OJ8798. He asked, what is the best PC flipping tip you can give? Patience is key. I used to say that a lot in my older videos, and it still stands true to this day. You need patience to find good deals, to build the computer, and then patience, especially when it comes to selling the computer. Most people aren't looking to buy a computer the same day they see it, so keep that in mind. Our second hashtag PFQ is from E20. Sorry if I didn't say that name right. They had a question about RGB, and they asked if it's necessary for PC flipping. Yes, there's no other way to put it. You basically need RGB when flipping PCs. I mean, you can sell a computer without RGB, but I mean, it's just gonna sell worse without it. Now, as far as buying an adapter for your motherboard, I've never heard of a USB 2 to like RGB adapter. I'd rather just buy a SATA RGB controller, either from AliExpress or Amazon, but I'd rather AliExpress, it'll be cheaper. Today has been a day. It actually started out pretty good. I ended up selling this computer right in the morning. Right when I woke up, I looked at my phone and it said an hour ago that I sold the computer on Java. So that's what I was gonna do this morning, was pack this thing up and get it shipped off. But of course, when you have a plan, that's when things don't go according to plan. I always test my computers before I ship them out, and this one just started crashing, blue screening, shutting off, yada yada. It was so annoying. Anyways, I think I have a fix. If I actually did find a fix, I will update you in the morning. Right now I'm gonna let it run overnight. It is about 7 p.m. If I wake up in the morning and it hasn't crashed, then it's fixed, right? Well, it is it's still working. I just turned off the RGB last night, so it wasn't just disturbing me all night, but it's been running for about 11 hours and 40 minutes straight, 100% utilization on the CPU and GPU. Hasn't crashed. I think it's good to pack it up. I kept the computer testing until about 8 a.m. because that's when the UPS store opened up anyways. And after that, I just shut down all the testing programs, did a quick reset on the computer, shut it down, and then I started packing it up. And now we are here. I just left the UPS store, dropped it off. I'm just so happy I was actually able to ship it, because yesterday, man, it was a headache. As I said, it was like crashing and blue screening. Some of the blue screen errors, one was like a video scheduler internal error. Another one was driver IRQ not equal error. I looked both of those up. Both of them are basically referring to GPU drivers or an issue with the GPU itself. Then I checked the event log and I saw another error. It said the computer has rebooted from a bug check. The bug check was 0x00016. I looked that up, and that was basically another thing to do with an issue with the GPU or the GPU driver. So I swapped it out, tried another GPU. It still crashed, but I didn't get any more of the GPU errors. I got a different error. The other error I got, it just said the system has rebooted without cleanly shutting down first. This error could be caused if the system stopped responding, crashed, or lost power unexpectedly. So then I was like, is it that Thermaltake 700 watt power supply? So I tried a different power supply and I got that same error. And normally when I test my computers, I just have them plugged in straight to a power strip. I've never had an issue with it, but I know some people recommend to have it best plugged straight into the wall. So then I tried that, tested for another hour, same error, same crash. So it wasn't the power supply, it wasn't the wall socket. Was something else. What I finally landed on in the last part I swapped out was the CPU. It ended up being a faulty Ryzen 5 3600. It's just so weird because this computer, I even made a whole video on it, and during the whole recording process, I never had any issue with the computer, but as I go to ship it out, of course it starts crashing and blue screening. I'm just very happy that I found the issues before I shipped it out, so the buyer didn't find the issues. I mean, that's why you gotta do double testing. Yeah, I guess it turned out to be all right. Anyways, the profit is on screen if you're interested. Today is November 27th. Tomorrow is Thanksgiving. Yes, the holidays are here. It has been getting busy. Stay tuned for the next episode because it should stay busy. I hope it does. And if you enjoyed this episode, go ahead and smash that like button. Subscribe if you loved it. And I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.